We have no idea, really,
and it's
what
also
the extent of this is going to be. We're looking at the first part of it, and hopefully it will not progress from here, but one never assumed that we would see what we're seeing now, so we have no idea really what might happen next.
And if we can aid those who are trying to get control of this situation, if you are at home and if you're watching this, if you can stay at home, please do. We are,
okay, you're looking at another explosion right here. This is another explosion.
Part of the tower coming down?
Part of the Twin Tower, obviously folding.
Coming crashing down. We're watching a live...
It is right
We're watching a live
next to it.
picture of this. What?
It's live. You're looking at this live. You're looking at another explosion right in the same area. Another explosion.
It's
That
hard
is
to
a
tell.
live picture right now. We don't know exactly what has exploded.
It looks like a building
part
collapsed.
of the building
It looks like,
collapsed.
but it's unclear right now, Lynn, if that is the second tower.
No,
is that the
second? Both towers are standing. This is another building in the area.
It's unclear right now.
We also ought to remind everyone, once again, this is an exceptional development. The FAA has banned all takeoffs at all airports across America. This country, in terms of air travel, has been immobilized. A good portion of the nation's capital, the most powerful center in the world, has been immobilized as well as a result of these terrorist
And that's
attacks.
a very haunting description that Bob Kerr just gave of that low-flying aircraft near the White House, and one can only wonder if that was something that ultimately ended up in the Pentagon.
We just saw a live picture of what seemed to be a portion of the building falling away from the World Trade Center. If we can re-rack that to about 20 seconds ago, you'll see something dramatic happening, and I don't know whether it's another explosion or a portion of the building falling away, but something major just happened at that building.
Now, it may be that something fell off the building. It may be that something has fallen. We don't know, to be perfectly honest, but that is what you're looking at, is the current. That's the scene at this moment at the World Trade Center. Dan Daler from ABC's Good Morning America is down in the general vicinity. Dan, can you tell us what has just happened?
Yes, Peter, it's Don Daler down here. I'm 4 blocks north of the World Trade Center. The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed. The entire building has just collapsed, as if a demolition team set off. When you see the old demolitions of these old buildings, it folded down on itself, and it is not there anymore.
Joining me also is Jim Plant. Jim, you're also a witness of what happened. Tell me exactly what you saw from your vantage point across the street.
I was just across Liberty and West here, and I saw the second plane hit the Tower 2. It looked like a 737. It hit a glancing blow, didn't hit direct. I don't know where the rest of the plane went, but it went in, fireball came out, and it hit lower than the first plane, which hit the upper floors.
Jim, thank you very much. At this point, as you can tell, there's absolute pandemonium in this area because of what had just happened. Exactly what, I can't confirm, but on the far side of the building, there seemed to be another explosion, and also on the right-hand side, there was also another explosion. We're not sure if that was extra reverberation from what happened at the World Trade Center, or if that was an added explosion.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
That's the southern tower you're talking
Exactly.
about.
The second building that we witnessed the airplane enter had been, the top half had been fully involved in flame. It just collapsed. There is panic on the streets. Thousands of people running up Church Street, which is what I'm looking out on, trying to get away. But the entire, at least as far as I can see, the top half of the building, at least half of it, I can't see below that, half of it just started with a gigantic rumble, folded in on itself, and collapsed in a huge plume of smoke and dust.
We're talking about massive casualties here at the moment, and we have...
I understand, at least in our city, the subways, at least some of the lines are now closed. I think people have trepidation about going underground. They don't want to be there.
Absolutely.
If we suffer a short-term setback because we need to increase the security, we won't be a paralyzed country. If we go through and say we can't move, then the terrorism will have its effect. And so the thing that we have to do is literally not panic, see that it's a disaster to some extent, and go on with business. Because if we don't, then the acts that they've now done, I mean, the World Trade Center's been targeted before, it's been hit before, and for a short term, if you recall, the city was paralyzed then. we can't allow ourselves to be paralyzed. That would just give in and create the effect they want.
They've hit the Pentagon. The White House is being evacuated.
I would assume that most structures of any moment, and most tunnels of any moment, in any place.
Take a look at that, if you would, Mr. Jaffe. That's the live picture of the Pentagon having been hit by an attack. Again, in Washington, we're told no, that's not the Pentagon. No,
we just heard that there was another explosion in the basement or one of the lower levels of the World Trade Center.
There are known injuries. How many? Much too soon to know. And whether there's any death or not, it is too soon to know. Yes, there are widespread assumptions that there must be death, but there are no confirmed fatalities.
Well, that would it would have seemed from that picture that you're right there, Dave, because we see.
From the bottom.
We don't know if that's anything that's fallout from the planes striking doing.
Yeah.
News coverage event.
Could be as a consequence of perhaps something falling from it. It certainly looks like an awful lot of smoke to be.
And we are now, for the first time, beginning to get some pictures of people in the streets.
Yeah, this is our live picture from the scene.
Now, in Washington, the Pentagon has had a fire and explosions. Much speculation of what would have caused the fires and explosions at the Pentagon in Washington, but very few facts. David Martin, our Pentagon correspondent, says that he has seen, I believe it said 5 injured people at the Pentagon. One eyewitness, and only one so far, is quoted as saying he thinks, I put that in quotation marks, he thinks a plane crashed into the Pentagon. But there'll be rumors all day, and we're going to try to separate the rumors from the facts.
Bill Daley, let me bring you into the conversation. I know this was the goal of the terrorist strike back in 1993.
Yeah, John, it was, and they thought they could do it by putting charges down in the basement and damaging the understructure. As much as these buildings were built to withstand a certain large hit, including some aircraft, apparently the structural integrity appears, from what we can see here, to be faltering to some degree.
They were not designed, perhaps, to take a direct strike from something the size of a 737 or perhaps an Airbus, perhaps fully loaded with fuel. Steel will melt. Here we go to the tape.
We have the tape.
And watch what happens in the left-hand tower. I don't know if this is the correct tape. There, something there is about to happen, falling away right there.
Yeah, it looks like a big chunk of it has just peeled away.
One can only hope that the area has been evacuated, but of course you wonder about all the emergency vehicles and the people who might have been injured early in the morning.
Well, you remember when the bomb went off in the basement of it in 1993, how much damage was done throughout that building, how much chaos there was at that time. These are 2 coordinated airplane attacks on the building on the upper reaches of it. That will have an enormous structural effect. Those buildings, I think that it's fair to say, will probably have to be brought down. It's too early to speculate on that, but there's been that kind of damage.
But just look at that. That is about as frightening a scene as you will ever see. Again, this is going on now in 2 cities. We have a report that there's a fire at the State Department as well, and that is being evacuated. So we've got fires at the Pentagon evacuated, the State Department evacuated, the White House evacuated on the basis of what the Secret Service describes as a credible terrorist threat. We have 2 explosions, 2 planes hitting the World Trade Center here in New York.
David, what can you tell us? David Lee Miller, can you tell us what happened there? All right, David Lee Miller, who has seen his share of horrors around the world in trouble spots in the Middle East and elsewhere, is in that area reporting on what we think we can see. I want to stress it's tough to...
Hello?
Yeah, David Lee, what can you tell us?
John, the scene is horrific. One of the 2 towers literally collapsed. I was making my way to the foot of the World Trade Center. Suddenly, while talking to an officer who was questioning me about my press credentials, we heard a very loud blast, an explosion.
We looked up, and the building literally began to collapse before us. There was debris falling, I'd say at least 3/4 the height of the building. People within the entire perimeter began literally, including myself, which is why I'm out of breath, to run for our lives.
We have no idea if this was a third explosion or if it might have been something from the debris raining down from one of the World Trade Center towers. It appears to be to the south of those buildings, but take a look at those pictures, and that is quite an incredible sight.
And what this second explosion was that took place about a part of the south, that would be the south tower, has apparently collapsed. We don't know if that was from the impact of this first plane that hit it, or whether something else has happened there. We'll work on that.
But it does appear that a portion, the top portion of the building, has collapsed down to the streets below.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable what we have seen here. The debris and smoke just covering the entire portion of lower Manhattan.
Oh my gosh.
Now you're looking at a live picture of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. In flames, with much smoke. In the last few minutes, there have been 2 reports, but not yet officially confirmed, that a portion of at least one of the towers has collapsed. But I caution that that's an unconfirmed report, although it comes from 2 sources, and it's unclear whether that collapse is about the interior of the building or some portion of the exterior of the building. I want to emphasize again, not to be redundant, but this is a day in which rumors are going to spread like mildew in damp basements. And there'll be reports, some of them will be officially confirmed, some not. That's the environment in which we're dealing.
We don't know specifically, as you've said, what has taken place at the Pentagon, but this is very serious, striking at the heart of the national government. And as John King was explaining, the White House
Frank, it's Aaron. I need to interrupt you for a second. Again, there has been a second explosion here in Manhattan at the Trade Center. We are getting reports that a part of the tower, the second tower, the one a bit further to the south of us, has collapsed. We are checking on that.
This footage we're seeing right now shows that the damage is so severe. I mean, we had seen what seemed to be 2 fairly self-contained impact craters before, and now it appears something much more dramatic has happened to at least one of those towers.
These pictures are beyond belief.
We're also told that the Sears Tower in Chicago has been evacuated, and what I can't tell you on that is whether there was something specific that happened there, whether there was an attack on that building yet, we're checking that out, or whether there was a warning, whether there was a threat of some sort, or whether that is simply precautionary. What we can tell you is that just in the last several minutes here, 2 or 3 minutes, a second or third, I guess technically, extraordinary event has happened here in Lower Manhattan.
10 o'clock Eastern Time this morning, just collapsing on itself. This is a place where thousands of people work. We have no idea what caused this. If you wish to bring anybody who's ever watched a building being demolished on purpose knows that if you're going to do this, you have to get at the under infrastructure of a building and bring it down.
Not clear now is why this explosion took place. Was it because of the planes, that 2 planes dual attacks this morning, or was there some other attack which there has been talk of here on the street? But I can tell you this, that the police have moved people back, and it's going to be a long time.
Yeah, David, we are looking at the replay of what happened that you're describing. It happened just moments ago. It sure appears that the building simply collapsed. Yeah, David, if you're still with us, please keep on the line. It appears that the building simply collapsed of its own weight, that there was so much damage from the heat of the fire. As I said, steel will melt,